explain how that's causing a degradation of society. Tommy Robinson talks about this a lot, and how essentially the UK is being taken over by Muslims. And I don't know where you line up on this, but I have been saying for a very long time, Islam is not compatible with Western values, just based off of the sheer number of Muslims in the world. If only 10% of them are Sharia practicing, you have hundreds of millions of people that just do not line up with Western values. So having an increased amount of Muslims coming into a Western society and trying to change it fundamentally is going to create a clash between the people that have already been there versus this new culture that is not lined up with their ideology.
So just to correct one thing that you said earlier when you were talking about crime, because I didn't think you wanted to stay on crime for too long, but just to get one thing clear about crime, you mentioned sexual violence and sexual violence going up in the last 20 years. Do I need to show you, or would you accept that according to every government statistics database that we have, that Muslim populations seem to be about proportionally represented for those crimes? They don't seem to commit any more than locals do.
Well, that's the point. You're increasing the amount. I mean, the total rape statistics in the UK rose from 16,000 in 2012 to 68,000 in March of 2024. They've increased 5% year by year and 452% since 2002. So if you're saying when you add in Muslims and the crime rate only goes up in proportionality to the amount of Muslims that come there, that's not an excuse. It's not saying like, oh, well, they're not doing it more than other people. You're increasing the amount of rapists that you're bringing into the country.
Well, it's just that people like Tommy Robinson would say that they actually do commit a disproportionate amount of it. Like they commit most of it. So if we're okay on that, then that's fine.
There's an argument to be made. I think that's only like 2% of reported rapes are actually tried and convicted. And because of the culture of the UK, let me try to frame this nicely.
The banned men example is really good. Also, I would assume, in my opinion, I would just assume that the way that the immigration debate is being handled in the UK is pretty similar to how debate about, black people commit more violent crime is handled, right? Let me explain. So we have discussed this before, right? This isn't like a new discourse, right? Crime statistic discourse have been a thing forever, right? I assume what's actually going on is typically poor people, and I think last time when I looked at the data, younger people commit more crimes in general. Older people will not commit as much crime. However, it would seem as though people who are moving into the UK, who are from these Middle Eastern and African countries, these people are committing just about the same amount of crime as everybody else around their age range, right? If you try to square it around their age range, if you try to factor out and distribute them into different age ranges, the younger people will always commit more crime, but they commit as much crime as the white young people, right? So white young people and brown young people commit about the same amount of crime, right? Which is what you kind of expect, okay? But older people who come to the UK, they would not be committing as much crime because they're more mature. They actually want to live a good life for their children, right? There's lots of reasons why they will not go out and commit as much crime. And yeah, if you try to factor out these things, then yeah, that's what you'll get. Now, in my opinion, this is probably one of the best defeaters for this argument. Like, even if you don't know much about the subject, which is understandable, like stuff like UK immigration as a whole is stuff that really gets into the weeds on like the numbers, right? The numbers are complicated, and there's a lot of things that you have to go over, right? However, I would argue the best thing to say is, well, I mean, if we were to factor based off of gender, okay, are you okay with only importing in brown women? Because it seems as though brown women commit less crime than the average white male in the UK and in Europe. Are you not okay with importing in a bunch of brown women then, but not the men? Chances are they will say no, because they just don't like brown people in general. And that is where the trap is, okay? You're welcome, by the way, for the talking point. Inspired by other commenters and chatters, all right?
They are.
I think they'll be fine with brown women over men. See, that's what you think.
They're very weary of Islamophobia. One could make the argument that some of these cases are not being taken seriously because they don't want to be labeled.
Or you can make the argument that we should only allow in brown people over the age of 30. Because brown people below the age of 30 will obviously commit more crime, right? So you just age restrict it, right? It's easy peasy, okay? Age restrict that shit. Okay, why not, right? Because then, guess what? They will probably, people over the age of 30 commit less crime, generally speaking, than people under the age of 30, right? So,
as Islamophobic or targeting the brown population. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I think that it's definitely an argument that people can make.
So are you trying to suggest
if you care about crime in the United States, okay, you might as well just deport all men, okay? Because guess what? 50% of the population commit 99.9% of the rape crimes, okay?
the per capita rate from Muslims is actually higher, but it just doesn't get reported?
It's a possibility.
I'm just saying, okay? Listen, you can't blame me for speaking facts.
I don't have the evidence of that. I'm saying you can make the argument that because of the culture in the UK, where they're so terrified of being labeled Islamophobic, right? They have, hate speech laws, or if you even call out a Muslim, there's one case where a woman was raped by a Muslim, reported it, and said some mean things about the Muslim online, and got a heavier sentence than the guy who allegedly raped her.
You're going to need to show me that story if you're going to start.
I'd have to look it up. But and if I have that incorrect, you can fact check me later. But that's a story that I heard of. And what I'm saying is, using common sense, that the UK has a very an aversion to Islamophobia, where they're terrified of being labeled Islamophobic. If you were to say, like, okay, there's a possibility that some of the cases being reported are being dismissed because of that, I think it would be a good argument. But no, I can't quantify that. I can't measure that.
Yeah, well, just to clarify, there's no evidence that Islamophobia hinders people from reporting crimes. There's been cases way back, like 10, 20 years ago, with places like Rotherham and Rochdale, where a couple of cops excused themselves by saying that political correctness was holding them back, even though their colleagues would often say otherwise. And another...
Bro, chances are Muslims are probably going to report other Muslims to the cops, right? Who the fuck are protecting brown people? They even hate themselves.
Problem with the police more generally was that they were neglecting all sexual abuse victims in those communities way back to the 60s, even before there were any Muslims in these towns. So I'm failing to understand how, in a country where prevent strategy was a thing, where we actually included policies that specifically targeted Muslims for counterterrorism investigations, and in a country where the arrest rate and stop and search rate for black people is much higher than it is for any other ethnic group in the country, I'm just wondering why it's even a theory that cops are being shackled by political correctness.
Well, I think
it's by political correctness.
There's like I said, a cultural issue that we in America think that is going on over there. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but they're opening up Sharia courts. You have more Muslims coming into your it's parliament, and I think the mayor, is it the
fuck are you talking about Sharia courts?
Mayor of London? Am I correct in saying he's Muslim?
Yeah.
I'm just saying when you have this cultural shift, right, where it's not about whether or not the women that may be reporting a rape from a Muslim are not doing that. They're not reporting it, because I'm saying that there is a possibility that maybe people are, when you have a rape case, it's pretty much a lot of the times he said, she said, and some people might be taking the he said argument.
So Sharia courts and the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, which cultural
Sharia
has
courts
Sadiq Khan done anything as mayor to make the place more culturally Muslim, or has he done any policies that are at odds?
How many Sharia courts have opened up in London?
There are 0 Sharia courts. There are Sharia councils for marriages that are opted into voluntary by adult men and women.
Okay, so Sharia councils are in the UK, and do you understand what Sharia law is? Yeah.
I don't think you do. If you're acting like that's a big problem, what do you think these Sharia courts do?
The imposition of Sharia law in a Western civilization is not a problem.
Depends on what you mean by Sharia law. What do these councils do? I'm asking you.
Well, I mean, the practice of Sharia law, it views women as second-class citizens. It has the ideology of...
Bro, when was the last time the right wing has ever cared about women in the first place? The only reason why they're using women right now is because it's useful for going against Muslims and brown people, right? Because they fucking hate brown people. But it's just that they hate brown people more than they hate women. So then that's why they're using women as a cudgel. But generally speaking, they never care about women. All they do is like fucking not do the laundry and abuse them at home and do fucking marital rape and like get divorced, okay? Like that's, yeah.
Of these Islamic practices that are essentially widely...
shit's crazy up in this bitch.
There's just the entertainment of it, right? Sharia council in a Western civilization, you don't see a problem.
Well, that's why I'm asking you what these councils do, because obviously treating women as a second-class citizen, discriminating, that's illegal. You can't do that in this country.
Yeah, like when was the last time that seriously, when was the last time that right-wingers ever cared about women's rights? When was this ever a thing?
That's against the Equalities Act. Barbaric practices, I mean, are they stoning people to death? That's illegal as well. So what do these councils do?
In Sharia practicing nations, they still, in 2025, stone women to death.
Yeah,
yes.
Some of them do. Does the UK? Do these councils in the UK do that?
My entire argument is some of them do it, and you're bringing that culture into your society and saying, well, we're going to be different. Like, no, it's going to be, no matter whether or not you bring in 1%, 5%, or 10%, you're bringing that in and thinking, oh, what could possibly...
What? Yeah, and who cares? Like, literal fucking white daughters are being groomed by, like, fucking, like they're getting groomed by fucking right-wing white conservative motherfuckers, right? All the fucking time. Like what exactly is your argument? So I could literally turn it on its head, like back around, right? Hello?
We go wrong here.
There are Christian countries that
Ugh,
where it's illegal and punishable by
gross.
death to be gay, but regardless of that, Sharia
Which
courts,
ones?
Sharia councils, what did they do? I'm asking you for the third time now. What did the Sharia councils in the UK do?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said in my opening,
So why are you
giving
bringing
an
up and appealing to
American-
the umbrella term of
I'm talking about
Sharia
Sharia,
law?
the practice of Sharia law. If there's a Sharia council, we can assume that the people on the Sharia council practice Sharia law. Yes.
What is Sharia law to you? What does that mean?
Do you want me to look it up? Like, I mean, Sharia law is just pretty much well known by most people. It's a practice of Islamic law, right? Islamic law and doctrine supersedes the doctrine of the laws of the land.
So
That's
if a
Sharia
Muslim
law.
comes to you and tells you that I practice Sharia law, I have to assume that they are doing every single law in the Quran. Do I have to assume that?
That's what it means. Yeah, that's what
Is
Sharia
that
law
what
means.
is that what most Muslims are doing? Then, when a Muslim tells you that they practice Sharia law, they are
We're not
following
talking about
every
most.
single thing in the Quran.
We're talking about not talking about most. Most Muslims ignore the doctrine of the Sharia law, but they don't call themselves Sharia practicing Muslims.
Yes, they do.
Not the
I can
ones that
find you about
practice
20
Sharia law.
in the next 2 hours. I can find you about hundreds by tomorrow afternoon of Muslims who say they practice Sharia law, but they don't stone people to death.
So you're saying that some places like what is it? It's Iraq, where you can have a child bride at like 9 years old, is a Sharia law practicing country. But then you have the like Saudi Arabia, and they have a more loose interpretation of Sharia law. But in both countries, you can still be stoned to death for violating Sharia law. So what I'm saying is,
God, I wish I could be stoned to death. You know who else is stoned to death? Snoop Dogg. Because he's stoned. Oh, hitting that Benjamin. Going to Blinkerton. Sorry.
you're having a legal framework for radical Islam, and you're saying as long as they ignore the radical parts of it, then we should accept it. I'm arguing against that. I'm saying you just don't have Sharia at all.
The Sharia councils, just because you're not aware, the Sharia councils in the UK deal with marriage. That's all they deal with. They deal with marriage disputes, and they're opted into voluntarily by adult men and women. Now, if you want to argue that there are issues with it, because sometimes issues emerge in any marriage, then there are issues when it comes to how separated these systems are from the state. And the way that we solved this a long time ago with Jewish marriage, for example, was that we allowed and cooperated with these communities to allow their marriage systems to be incorporated into our law, so that they can still so that things can't go underground. That's really the issue with Sharia councils.
Under Sharia law,
but there's no one getting stoned to death. There's no one.
Under Sharia law, can a Muslim man rape his wife?
Is that what's happening in the UK? By the letter of the law, yeah. By the literal interpretation, I'm sure they could, but I mean, I don't know.
You said that the Sharia Council deals with marital issues. If one of the issues is a woman goes up to the Sharia Council and says, "My husband raped me," they need to have multiple witnesses, and they need to practice the Sharia law for that marital dispute. They look at rape as a marital dispute, not a crime. So
not
you're telling me that there are women who get raped and they just don't want to go to the cops because of their. They can go to the cops. It's illegal to rape in the UK.
Yeah, look, so yes, correct. But do you understand that the rape statistics is?
It's illegal to rape in the UK. Wow, I didn't know that.
Like Saudi Arabia are extremely low because of the culture of Sharia law, where if a woman does report it, right, she has to.
No. What we have to talk about for this to truly matter is how much would a person be willing to believe in their beliefs to the point where they are willing to break a law, right? To the point where they would be willing us to upturn the social order and to break the social contract, right? Chances are, ain't nobody gonna be doing that shit. You know what I mean? You hear me, sonny boy? You get me? My ninja, my fruit ninjas. Oh, sorry. Hey, what? Hello?
Pretty much have it on camera, and if she doesn't, then she won't be taken seriously because they view them as second-class citizens. So, and part of their law, part of the doctrine is that a Muslim man cannot rape his wife. His wife is his property. He can rape her whenever he wants.
Well, it's a good thing the Muslims in the UK are one.
Damn, bro. Sounds like all the Christians must be secretly Muslim. I mean, that's pretty much what Andrew Wilson advocates for, right? Oh, there's no such thing as marital rape. Well then, Mr. Crucible fan. Are you okay with that?
Who either they themselves or their parents or their grandparents came from a country where that was much more easy to do, and they came to a country where it was illegal to rape your spouse. So again, unless you can show me any evidence at all that there is some kind of permissibility of rape happening in the UK that's significally different to Muslims than it is to locals, you can show me, but it doesn't bear out in the crime stats. It doesn't bear out.
The Sharia Council then?
The point of the Sharia Council is because Muslims, like Christians, are human beings. They adhere to some parts of their faith literally, and other parts they don't. So there are Muslims in the UK who seem like they want to use Sharia councils for marriage. Some, not all of them do. Some of them do civil marriages. They go through Sharia councils for marriage disputes, but if they feel like a crime's been committed against them in a country where you cannot commit those crimes, where it's illegal to commit those crimes, then they've got legal options to that. They have legal avenues, and we have crisis centers. And
what is this? Sorry, I'm getting more screenshots about anti-fans. This is going to be a coverage of politics with occasional drama sprinkled in between, okay? Hold on, what is this? See, this is the best way to engage my stream, okay? This is how you know my stream is peak, okay? At the same time of dealing with anti-fans, you also get Lonerbox talking about Sharia law. Oh my god. Peak! Wait. Shellboner. My husband thinks lolly is gross, and that stuff Food Shops has is gross and irredeemable, okay? Puddles is a puddle. He is a puddle. He's the cutest puddle. Wow, that's so brave of him. Did you give him a medal? Lolly is disgusting. Dude, I've heard that Showboner isn't even good to her husband, okay? I heard that Showboner is a shitty wife, okay? About to become ex-wife. Got him. Wait, what's this? Psycho. Oh, this is a person who got fucked by Destiny before. And now everybody in the server is after them. Obsessive bitching compulsive disorder? Oh! Oh! Wait, is this talking about... Wait, is this talking about Showboner? She's a massive bitch, so it makes sense. Wait, about what? What was this? Oh my god, Puddles. Why are you spending so much time in there? He's mad. Brought to a different server. Okay. Yeah, we all know you leak logs to freak shops. Hey, look, it's Roteffi. Nice. You're a C-word. Nice, good one. Good stuff.
We have women's groups, and we have the state funds a lot of these organizations to make sure there's outreach, even in Muslim communities. That's actually one of the outcomes of the scandals that we've had in the last few decades with the police. So I'm just wondering why you think the existence of people practicing their marriages differently
The lonely
is going to lead to us
people.
having, like, is going to lead on to the conclusion of what people getting stoned to death in the UK.
Well, I explained it to you. I said that if you have a Sharia council, then that would be based on Sharia law. And if it's based on Sharia law, then you just have to use common sense and critical thinking to say, why is this necessary? And if you don't see the problem, because you think that if a Sharia practicing Muslim household had a woman in it who was being raped and beaten by her husband, she would go to the proper, the proper police station, as opposed to the Sharia council, because it's a Sharia practicing household, right? So she would go to the Sharia council because in Sharia law, right? They don't care about the laws of the UK, of America, of anything.
Apparently they do, because most Muslims in the UK are law-abiding citizens. They commit about the same amount of crime proportionately as white people do. So using logic and critical thinking is, I would assume, if I'm talking about Sharia councils in the UK, of which there aren't many, to be clear, there are none in Scotland as well, despite us having Muslims here, I would look at those and I would see, what are they actually doing in those courts? If they're not doing an overall imposition of Sharia law, and they seem to just be dealing with marriage disputes, and they do communicate with the state as well, and people are allowed to go in there and interview people and ask questions about them, the scandals that come out of here are people sometimes in underground situations being like unfair when it comes to marriage disputes and things like that. And again, that becomes a civil or a criminal issue. That's not, but the idea that there's like women getting raped and they're just allowed to by the Sharia council, and there's no avenue to try and stop this legally, and they're living by their own laws. It's not borne out. That's just not so.
The Sharia council is a separate legal entity that is separated.
No, it's not a legal entity.
Well, it's under their practices, right? It's not the Sharia council, right? You said they can be interviewed and they can go in there and blah blah blah, all right? But the Sharia council was
Sharia council. Oh my god, guys! New Illuminati just dropped. Okay, the Sharia council. Oh my god.
created. Like you said, what you said for marital disputes, is that it? That's the only thing that they deal with?
That's pretty much, that's the only thing they deal with that I'm aware of.
So
maybe sometimes like with lending money, potentially.
Okay, so you have a council that's sitting in the UK, that council is created because a demographic of.
Well, I mean, this just sounds like a community of Muslims that gather together and make decisions for the community. Like, this is kind of what it sounds like. There's no extrajudicial. Like, I'm pretty sure if a crime occurs in like some fucking brown community, like it's not like the crime isn't gonna be deferred to the fucking Sharia council, right? The crime is still gonna be deferred to the fucking British police, right?
People that live in the UK needed a separate council to deal with their own religious practices under Sharia law, because it's Sharia council which practices Sharia law, right? It's outside of the Western, like what the UK law, the UK practices. They don't care about the law.
Yeah, and fucking white people book club exists, and Shakespeare in the Park. What's your point? What the hello?
They just care about Sharia law. That's what they're doing. That's why the council exists.
We have fucking Comic-Con and fucking Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, okay? What's your point? They should decide a lot of things on their own, okay? Part of grade band, please.
Yes.
So they don't care about UK law, but the only thing that they practice is marriage.
In Sharia law, if you're allowed to rape your wife, right, they will, because they practice Sharia law. They're not going to care about the law that says you can't rape your wife.
They will rape their wives because it's Sharia. Do you think every Muslim rapes their wife?
Did I say
Do you think
that?
every Muslim who says they adhere to Sharia law rapes their wife?
Did I say that? I said they can. I did not say they do. I said they can under Sharia law. It's part of their doctrine.
Do you have any argument about what's happening in these councils besides this might happen?
My argument is the fact that it's called a Sharia council. If it's called a Sharia council, it means it's under Sharia law. And anybody arguing for Sharia law in a Western civilization is completely ignorant to what Sharia law actually represents.
Okay, you can forgive me for being someone who cares about facts and data and information. Unless I can see actually any evidence of this happening, I'm just going to go
Okay,
with
here's
that's
your
probably
evidence.
superseding the maybe.
Your
I
evidence
wonder
is in Iraq.
if
in
I
Iraq,
can jump in. I wonder if the
Iraq, talking about
question I wonder if the question would actually be, could a religious entity
This is the same guy who said, "Yeah, I already won the argument." Why would you go in with that level of confidence? What's wrong with you?
offer as a standpoint for people of that religion, right? Because I would compare this to Christianity, Catholicism, Orthodoxy. Like they all have their own councils too, right? So, but then Misfit, I believe you're going into it. It kind of overrides the rights of these people.
But under the Catholic doctrine, every Catholic teaching, which would be
My
something that you would
source
counsel
that
on with
made
your
it the
church
fuck
or whatever.
up.
And we do have separation of like church and state, which that just means no laws. That would apply to the creation of a church, right? So you wouldn't be able to have a creation of a Sharia council here. You just have the churches, but there's no law in the Bible that says, well, you can rape your wife, right? So there's no issue of a Catholic going to a church for religious counsel because nothing in there would be violating the law of the land, which is what Sharia is in conflict with. And like I was just
That's not how we decide laws. Like how we decide what religion gets to stay in the country isn't dependent on like whether or not the religion has jurisdiction over the existing law of the land, right? Hello? What are we talking about here? Earth to Zach.
saying, you said, do I have any evidence? Can you, right now, in Iraq, marry a 9-year-old? Yes, because it's a Sharia law practicing
Huh, see, that's what you want, okay? You want someone like Aisha.
nation, right? It's more extreme than Saudi Arabia. It's more extreme than certain other ones, but it does exist because they are practicing the religious
I know what
the
you
religious
want.
legal doctrine that they impose wherever they go. Is it all of them? No. Is it a percentage of them? Yes. What is that percentage? I don't know. But even if it's a small percentage, that's too many.
So just to be clear, we don't have any evidence of this actually happening. It's just that it might do because it happens in Iraq. I don't know what to say.
Bro,
The
bro's
argument of-
cooking
the
at 0
argument of no evidence.
degrees.
I love this argument. It's just like freaking COVID. It's like, oh, no evidence, no evidence. I'm giving you the evidence. I'm giving you the evidence. I'm saying Sharia law exists. We can all agree on that. That's the evidence. In Sharia law, you can rape your wife. You can marry a 9-year-old. That's the evidence. This is not contested. That's my evidence. What you want is you want me to give you a specific like case that I can pull up where
I don't know how Lonerbox can keep a straight face through this, okay? I'll be laughing my ass off. Oh my god. Bro, I don't know how Lonerbox can keep a straight face. Holy shit.
need to. I just answered your question. Yes, the evidence is Sharia law does not align with any Western value system or any legal framework in any Western nation. And you're admitting that they have Sharia councils in the UK, which would follow Sharia law. It's crazy that we're even getting into
It's crazy
this.
that you introduced
Wow.
this topic. You didn't even know what the Sharia councils in the UK did. You just said
I
the word
don't need to.
Sharia like it was a buzz term. If you think they don't care about British law, by the way, why is it that the majority of sheikhs in these Sharia courts in these councils are actually willing to bring themselves under in conjunction with British law in the Marriage Act? Why do they want to do that?
Wait, I'm sorry. When did they do this?
In the same way that Jewish people in the UK, that Jewish marriage is recognized by the state. So that means that the Jewish councils, the state basically cooperates with the Jewish
I'm
councils
hungry.
to set a nationwide standard on how to conduct marriage and marriage disputes and how marriages are conducted. Then Muslims want the same thing. So they want to come within the reason that they operate the way they do now in the more underground way is because Islamic marriage is not recognized, whereas Jewish is. But they want to come
Shakira?
into
What?
cooperation with the state. That's what they're campaigning for. Most of them want that. So if they don't care about British law, why are they literally trying to bring themselves closer to British law? Like it doesn't make any sense. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about these councils.
No, it's not a secret that that Islamic Muslim communities want to integrate into the political system of the places that they're occupying. That's been done here. It's been done in the UK. It's done everywhere they go. What I'm saying is that their religious beliefs do not align with.
Is there anybody that is not Jewish to these people? Like, everyone is a Jew now. Jews are Jews. Brown people are Jews. Immigrants are Jews. Is there anybody who's not a Jew to these guys? Or
Western values. So I'm saying you shouldn't do that.
But you're aware that if they did integrate their marriages within the Marriage Act in the UK, that means it would be easier for Muslim women to get a divorce than it would be in the underground system, right?
Or they could essentially make it more. They could bring it closer, the entire system closer to their practices, right?
How?
So because under Sharia law, right? There are practices where they will want
Sharia law.
the rest of the country
God.
to be more aligned with them.
So
Like child-
if they
Not
like child
Sharia
rights.
law.
So if they get their marriages recognized by the state, and that means it's
Meme
easier for women to
engine.
seek out divorces through the civil courts, then that's going to lead to them trying to get stoning
Well,
legalized.
didn't you? No. Didn't you say? Well, didn't you say that they were already under that? Like they're separated from the law currently. The Sharia courts are essentially just for the religious practices only. They don't apply to the actual law under the UK, right?
I
I'm
can
only
read off,
Jewish, unfortunately. What do you
quick
mean by
overview.
that?
Sharia councils in the UK provide advisory and non-binding rulings on civil matters such as divorce, marriage, and inheritance from an Islamic perspective. They are not formal courts, and their decisions have no legal standing under UK law. Instead, they serve as voluntary forums for Muslims to seek advice and resolutions they align with their faith. It does say that they are provided as a guidance council to the UK.
Yeah, it's a fucking fan club for Islam. Like, what do you want? Bro is actually just malding at book club for Islam. It's a book club for the Quran, okay? Jesus Christ, chill the fuck out. Holy shit. Bro, like, you can't be this mad at fucking book club for the Quran, dude. Holy shit.
Government. That was a piece of it, but everything else is just dealing with stuff on the home front and offering guidance.
Yeah, so my point is,
It's a fucking
if they want to get
community
integrated
fucking
into
book
the
club.
law in the UK, that would be bringing the law in the UK. They would want to bring the law that's in the UK closer to their values.
The legal age
And
of
you're
marriage in
arguing
the
that
US
that
in the
would mean
19th century. Hopefully it's
that it would go
5.
in the opposite direction.
Well, have
right?
we
It's
gone
like-
closer to Jewish values because we recognize Jewish marriage as a minority? Is Israel closer to Islamic values because they recognize marriages that are conducted by sheikhs in the Arab villages?
I'm not understanding that comparison.
They want their marriages to be recognized so that it's just easier for them to have the process happening through the state in a uniform way. That's not going to bring us closer
Well,
to Islamic
Jesus.
values. It's like
But
non-Muslims are going to decide to get Muslim marriages.
So are you saying that you can't get married? You can't have that marriage now in the UK?
They can, but it's not recognized by the state. So it would be like if we had some random cult that wants to get married in a way that the state doesn't really
Okay. How can-
acknowledge. So then they just go and they just find a random hilltop and do it and have their own little system.
Okay, and what kind of marriage is not recognized that they want to be recognized?
They want to. So most of them seem to be okay with the idea of bringing Islamic marriage into the same status as Jewish marriage in the UK. Like
Okay,
it's
what would-
recognized by the Marriage Act. It's just
And
recognized.
Where does that divert from current current UK marriage law? Like, what is the difference? What's the difference between their version of marriage and the one that they want?
Because their marriage isn't recognized by the state. So it would be to do
What
with
kind of marriage?
their Islamic marriage. What do you mean?
So like they can't get married in a mosque and have it recognized by the UK.
My understanding right now is that Islamic marriage is not part of it. It's not integrated into the Marriage Act the same way that Jewish marriage is.
I don't understand. I don't know that. So if that's true, yay UK. But I don't understand what the difference would be between going into a mosque and getting married to consenting adults, not like a underage girl or anything like that. How that would not be recognized by the UK.
Quick pull up here. An Islamic marriage ceremony, or nikah, I might say that name wrong, is not legally recognized under UK law unless the couple also has a separate civil ceremony. The UK's Marriage Act of 1949 does not include Islamic marriages, meaning that without a civil ceremony, couples are not legally married and do not have legal rights and protections of marriage, such as financial, so on and so forth.
Okay. Yeah, and I would wonder what their argument is for that, right? I mean, is it potentially, I don't know this, I'm just asking, but is it potentially because of under Sharia law, sometimes they view marrying, 15-year-olds as part of their doctrine, their religious doctrine?
You're saying that's why it's not recognized?
I'm asking if it is.
No. Why, if that were the case, why would most of the sheikhs in these councils actually want to integrate into the Marriage Act? Because if they get integrated within the Marriage Act, there is no way that it's going to recognize any marriages under the legal age, which I think is 16 in the UK.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So
I
they
don't know.
want that, as in they want more.
It seems like
state
neither of us
input.
know why.
No,
Neither of us know why.
I'm wondering. I think it's just because they're not holding like a specific ceremony and applying it at the registry. So I feel like this could be resolved if they just a civil ceremony must be performed at a registry office or a religious building licensed for civil marriages. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
just
what
not.
would be the big deal? With just
applying-
what would be the big deal with just going and registering and doing it the way that's part of the process of the country that you're in? Why do they need their own, or why do they need to get integrated in? I don't understand. So I don't think you know the answer either, because otherwise you would have told me. But I guess we can find out why.
It's because people don't want to get two marriages. It's because they want to get married twice.
Yeah, I know,
rather
but if
their marriage was already recognized, and probably because it's an equality thing. Because Jews get their marriages recognized in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's weird how it's like there's a separate Muslim marriage that they don't want to. They don't want to just go to the courthouse and get the paperwork and then do their Muslim ceremony. I don't know.
Probably because married couples tend to get different protections from or benefits from the state as well. Like I think it's easier to get like child support and things like that potentially, or NHS things would be contingent on marriage in some ways.
Sure.
But in any case, it's also the fact that, and again, some sheikhs will say this, is that they want it to be like a uniform system, which would help them as well.
Well, they already
It's
have a uniform
streamlined.
system. You just get married under the law of the land that you're in.
Well,
It's like that's kind of
I mean,
what you
uniform
do when
for
you're in a different country.
I mean,
when you're
uniform
in
for
when you're in a different country, you go and you do the process of the country you're in.
Or you do your own religious groups process, like Jews do in the UK, like with no problems.
Well, I mean, the Jews are.
Fuck, I've been playing Terraria, but I gotta go back and watch you react to the genetically modified skeptic video. Yay. Oh, it's a good video. Thanks for linking it. I think too. So thank you for linking that video. I appreciate it. Now we're watching Lonerbox talk about marrying children.
Following the law. The law says that they can.
And how? Because they campaigned to get their marriage rights recognized in the UK. They weren't always.
Turntables.
And that's currently
Okay.
the process in the UK. I don't really know
Yeah.
what the argument is against doing it. It worked for Jews. It will work for Muslims.
Let's see. I'd like to hear their arguments. I mean,
Okay, we've
But yeah,
spent a lot
as
of
far
time
as
just like circling the drain on that thing that you didn't even have any
well, I think
evidence for
it was
being an
stemmed
issue,
from, it was stemmed from the issue of multiculturalism, right? And again, I'll make the argument again, right? There is enough of a problem with Islam where even if it's only 10%, that's a big problem, and it doesn't it's not compatible with Western values, right? So if you only have 10% of these people who are like, I want to follow the Quran to the letter, right? Then you have Iraq, right, which is marry 9-year-olds and stone women to death and what have you. They're following Sharia law to the letter, right? But then you want to bring that system and into.
You're really telling me that Christians aren't willing to stone people to death either? Bye, best girl. Okay, see you later, other best girl. But like, you're really telling me that like Christians aren't willing to stone people to death either? There's like an entire arc that Nick Fuentes has went through where he does nothing but praise Islam because Islam is like the religion that restricts a lot of women's rights, and he fucking hates women. He just likes femboys. So it's like, dude, like you can't tell me that, like, dude, like I feel like half of the far right motherfuckers would like absolutely cream themselves thinking about half of the shit that Sharia law has. Okay, why would you even be against Sharia law at this point? Like, you're only against it because they're brown. Okay, but you wouldn't be against it if they were white, because you would say, oh my god, this is so fucking based. Ultra conservative religious law, fucking awesome, epic and based.
A civilized nation and say we're going to have our own courts where we can follow, where we can get counsel on Sharia law, but we want to separate it from the system that's in place here in this country. But then we also simultaneously want that system to accept our laws into their legal framework. It seems like they want their cake and they want to eat it too.
No, it wouldn't be getting accepted. It wouldn't just be getting accepted. So the state would have input, and the standards would be getting set by the state as well. So if there is, for example, one weird underground sheikh who wants to do something that might not be aligned with the Equalities Act, they wouldn't be able to, because the state would be regulating and making sure that everything is within the law of the country, and that would be the legal standard for Islamic marriage. But it seems to me that they want to
10 Commandments in schools, motherfuckers, when Sharia law councils exist in another country. I know, right? Bro, before you know it, you'll call a bunch of fucking black cookouts fucking Sharia law fucking councils, okay? Because guess what? There's a lot of people in the black community who are indeed of the Muslim kind, okay? Like, would you say like the fucking black council, aka the cookout, is like Sharia council gatherings? Like, what?
do that. They want to have their marriages conducted in a way that is compatible with the country's laws, and the standard is set uniformly. So yeah, it's maybe weird to you because it's maybe going against your theory. But again, if the Sharia councils are not a good example, then because you can't show me any tangible outcomes that are a problem here. What is the tangible outcome? Like you're talking about Muslims wanting to bring their culture and impose it on the UK or whatever else. Are they? Who do they? You know, Muslims in this country mostly vote left, right? They vote center left.
I would think they would.
Like liberal center left, not socialist communist.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, explain the difference at this point. Most of our left-leaning politicians are basically embracing socialism, but you know, the leader of the largest city in America is a democratic socialist.
I'm talking about the UK. I'm talking about Keir Starmer.
I know, but I was talking about. Yeah, but I thought you said that Muslims in America. I might have misheard you. But yeah, no, in America we have this problem. I might have misheard you. I thought that you were saying America, but yeah, in the UK, if Muslims are voting left, there's can't remember the guy's name, but he was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood who was talking about how they love leftists, right? Because leftists are useful idiots, where they are able to manipulate them into accepting their ideologies, and they use that idiocracy to expand into other nations and change the laws of the land, which is exactly what my argument has been. You're talking about bringing in a culture that is incompatible with the Western civilization of the place that it's being imposed. Right? It's like why don't they make their countries better? That's my number one question, right? So like if you go to a heavily Sharia practicing nation, it is always a horrible place to live. Nobody vacations in Iraq. So if you're talking about embracing that same failed ideology and that failed legal framework, then you're just inviting potential for failure. That's my argument.
Okay, so the leftists that the Muslims vote for in the UK as well, I guess they're the useful idiots. So which law is there any single law in the UK that we have changed to accommodate Muslims in a way that's incompatible with Western liberal democracy? I
think I said this in my opening. It's a weird debate to have with me because I don't know anything about your laws as far as not the specifics, right? I just know the news stories, the general.
Wait, why would you even debate this? If okay, so one of your claims is Islamic law supersedes UK law. Okay, you don't know any of the specifics of UK law? How could you be arguing this point? You can't argue this point. You can't argue this point because there's no way. It would automatically go off of presumption that you would know what some UK laws at least are, so then you would understand that. Yeah, what the fuck? Hello?
Consensus.
Dude, you know what Lonerbox should do? Lonerbox should just be like, you know what? Did you know that UK laws enable rape? So technically, there's no conflict there because UK laws actually permit rape. Okay, obviously not true, but he should do that to troll him. Okay.
Based off of what we view in America as a cautionary tale, because of the, if you look at these, let's say the free speech, and I know that you guys have never really had it, but we look at the stories of people being arrested. I think thousands of people have been arrested over social media posts. And I know that that's not completely related to immigration, but many of them are being arrested because of anti-Muslim rhetoric that's being posted online. I mean, look at Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson's case was just like tossed out because of the overreach from the government trying to say that he was. I guess I don't even know what the actual charges were, but because of what he was saying online about Muslims, they said he lied about some kid and blah blah blah.
Well, he defamed someone and he got sued.
Well, according to
he pled guilty to
the verdict. Well, didn't that just get tossed out?
No, he was convicted this ages ago. He had to pay the fine.
I don't know anything
What was
about
the new
Tommy
case about?
Robinson.
I don't know what the new case was about, but you realize that Tommy
I
Robinson.
think it was stemmed from that one. It
might have been stemming from that one, but you understand that Tommy Robinson has pled guilty to multiple crimes in the UK.
Yeah.
He's pled guilty to assaulting a police officer. He's pled guilty to defamation. He's pled guilty to contempt of court. What do you want? Like Tommy Robinson's a criminal. He commits crimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, they say the same thing about Trump here. They're like, oh, he's a felon. It's like, okay, I don't care.
Has Tommy Robinson not? Has he?
You don't care that Trump is a felon? Okay.
Or has he not pled guilty to crimes and gone to jail for it after pleading guilty?
Well, I don't know. I know that he fought that case and he was put in jail. But I think that based on the new verdict that was just dropped, where it threw everything out, was based on when he got out of jail. He was saying the same thing. So I don't know the details of the plea. But if he did plead guilty or something to defamation, I mean, isn't that a civil matter? It's a civil matter in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's not a criminal matter.
That doesn't make him a criminal. That makes him civilly liable.
He was a criminal because he engaged in contempt of court and because he assaulted a police officer. He has other ones as well. He's got other crimes as well.
It looks like the most recent case, November 2025, was for refusing police access to his phone during the July 2024 border stop, and it had to do with he was found not guilty of a terror offense, so it has to do with counterterrorism concepts. So it looks like they came in with kind of maybe some new.
Yeah, these are speech laws. So you said that he was civilly the crime that he committed was not that he said something. That would just be a civil offense. But then he refused to admit that he did something wrong with his speech, and then they criminalized it. They gave him contempt of court charges. If it all stems from the speech thing, then you just made him a criminal based off of words he said.
Wait, that's not what the contempt of court charge was for. It wasn't for that. Well, like a catch-22. No, that's not what happened. The contempt of court happened because he broke a law.
It broke a law based on the speech case that he was in.
No, it was a separate thing. That was to do with the grooming gang trial, where he was filming himself in front of the court steps and screaming at defendants, which you're not supposed to do in the UK. That's why he was never convicted.
What I'm saying is, we look at it in America. We look at the UK as a cautionary tale of what happens when you start imposing free speech laws and you start having mass migration. And let's put Tommy Robinson aside. There are people that are being arrested and thrown in jail for anti-Muslim rhetoric on social media. And when we see that in America, we go, yeah, we better never do this shit. And while it might not be directly related to the immigration, there is definitely like a causality of, okay, we have way more Muslims in here now because of immigration, and they feel like they need to be protected. So we have to create a law that says you can't say anything anti-Muslim online or we'll arrest you. So it's kind of related.
Which law have we created for that?
Well, you have hate speech laws against
were hate speech laws created for Muslims?
No, they are being applied for Muslims, right? Because you have UK citizens who are saying what I'm saying. Islam is incompatible with the West. They might even say, even meaner things than that. But then your government is throwing them in jail. And that's because of multiculturalism, right? It's because there's a separate set of rules for a certain group where if you say mean words about them, you'll be arrested, right? That's the cautionary tale.
So,
and multiculturalism is a result of mass migration.
Okay, you're going to need to give.
Notice how he always backs out to the macro when you can't win on the micro? Yeah, it's called Mod and Bailey.
First of all, the stirring up hatred offences they're quite old in the UK. Just to give you some stats, between 2006 and 2016, a time when we had quite a lot of Muslims in this country, there were 9 cases involving charges for this crime. More recently, and I think the biggest victims of this crime in terms of reporting and conviction are Jews, not Muslims. It was something like 50 in a year. So.
Last stats I looked at, it was something around 1,000 total arrests under the hate speech laws. Now, this could be for Muslims, it could be for something else. My point is, when you embrace multiculturalism and you have laws in your country that are labeled hate speech laws, you're going to have people arrested because there's multiculturalism that they don't agree with. So they're saying things about the other culture and being thrown in jail for it, right? So mass migration contributes to that. That's common sense.
So people are getting arrested for saying Islam is incompatible with Western values?
I can look up specific cases.
I need a specific case, because I guarantee you it is not that easy to get arrested and jailed for speech in the UK. We don't have First Amendment, but we do not have it to the point where we're just making new laws to accommodate the sensitivities of Muslims. That's not a thing that we do here.
All right, UK. I'm just going to type in arrest for hate speech, anti-Muslim.
Oh my God.
Let's see here.
There's one example here of
How could you be this confident to schedule like a debate when you don't even do any research? Like, how could you? I admire anyone who is willing to do something like this. Holy shit, you have some balls, kid. Okay.
In July 2025, I'm sorry. Recent arrests. Hemet Koskan, the Quran burning case. Okay, the Turkish guy. I think it was just this year. He burned a Quran outside of the Turkish consulate, shouting anti-Islam slogans, and he was charged under Public Order Act Section 4A for intentional harassment, alarm.
He's doing real-time research.
Religious hatred.
Yeah, it's a fucking study session, okay? Study buddy.
Convicted in June of 2025. Then there's the unnamed CPS distress to Islam charges. Then there's a few more here. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but what I'm saying is it does happen.
I pulled up the UK police have made numerous arrests for anti-Muslim hate speech and related offenses, particularly in the aftermath of significant public events like in August 2024 riots, which led to over 1,000 arrests related to anti-Muslim unrest. Many individuals have been charged and sentenced, especially for posts made on social media.
That's the one I looked up.
Yeah,
it was over 1,000. I believe it was over 1,000 arrests related to that one incident. So if you're saying that you think that multiculturalism mass migration does not increase multiculturalism, which leads to people being arrested for hate speech based off of the opposing culture, you have that story right there where it's like over 1,000 people have been arrested for anti-Islam rhetoric in the UK. And
so I'm just making sure we don't get things muddied here. So for one, usually when you see these cases, and I don't agree with all of them, we can go into the free speech argument if you want, but going for a lot of these cases, you can find someone who is convicted of social media posts or whatever, stirring up hatred, but then you can look at what these social media posts were. There was one from a few years ago where a guy was on social media, but his posts were him saying, go kill all the Muslims and then distributing terrorist manuals, okay? I think that would even probably pass the Brandenburg test. There are some forms of speech that even in the United States, you can get in trouble for with the law, right? If you're engaged in incitement. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the UK, you're saying that there are people being arrested under Public Order Act for Quran burning, which I don't agree with. I like First Amendment. I think we should have it. Sure. One question, who passed the Public Order Act? When's that come from?
Well, no, look, I'm sure that you guys I'm sure that they made a case for why that person was in violation of the law. I'm not saying that they aren't in violation of your laws. I'm saying your laws are going to create
the laws
arrest.
are a problem. Yeah, there's a problem with the laws, but who passed the laws?
I don't know. I don't follow your.
The laws were passed by conservatives. They were passed by majority white conservatives. And again, this goes way beyond Muslim immigration. We've had blasphemy laws and laws against sectarian songs being sung on buses and in public ever since the 1800s. Okay, we've had laws about communicating offensive material in the post, like by sending letters to people that have offensive material in it, and that's been illegal since like 1880. And most of these laws, like Public Order Act and the obscenity laws and the offense material that goes with that, dates back to these very old laws. So
I'm not arguing the legality.
Well, you're arguing that multiculturalism caused this. Multiculturalism did not force our politicians to be shitty about speech. If you want a First Amendment, make the argument for having that in the country. Probably a lot of Muslims would agree with that because Muslims get in trouble with the law as well for speech. Like people who do Palestine protests get in trouble for sometimes doing things that might be incitement, other things that is definitely not incitement. So if you want to make a free speech argument, yes, but we don't need Muslims out of the country to have better free speech laws. The people who passed these laws were passing it when this country was 99% white.
Hold on. The debate prompt is illegal immigration, or is it illegal immigration or immigration?
Oh my God.
Immigration.
Does immigration. Okay. So the debate prompt is, does immigration pose a threat to the UK? I am telling you why. When you allow mass immigration and create an environment of multiculturalism in a society that has hate speech laws, that is going to increase the amount of people that were there being arrested for said hate speech laws, which is a threat to the people of the UK. They are no longer allowed, and you'd argue that they were never allowed to exercise their beliefs that you should not bring in a different culture that they don't agree with.
Okay, so the problem the threat is that if immigrants come into the country, the threat is that laws that existed for over 100 years before the immigrants came here might be applied to people.
Back to the mot.
That are part of that country and are part of that culture.
Back to the mot, baby.
The culture that is being immigrated in is a threat to the people that are there.
Why not just change the law? Why not just change the free speech laws?
I think you should. But
do we need immigrants out of the country to do that?
Under the debate prompt, I'm telling you the threat versus what you like. The threat that immigration poses is when you embrace multiculturalism in a society that has one culture.
Threat is his balding head.
People from a different culture, and then the people complain about it. They're getting arrested for it. Those people are UK citizens. That's a threat to the UK. This is not up for debate. They are being arrested.
It's like saying we should have stopped Irish immigration to the UK because some people might get falsely accused of sectarian violence and they might go to jail. No, well, fix the laws, man. Come on, that's not a serious argument. What are you talking about?
Under the current laws, the embrace of mass immigration is a threat to the people of the UK, considering they are being arrested for criticizing the culture that is being imported.
Okay, quick question: Were those laws a threat to people before any of the immigrants came?
The laws were in place, yes.
Okay, so the laws are a threat regardless.
If you take away the mass migration, those people aren't going to be complaining about the mass migration that doesn't exist. Therefore, they won't be being arrested for criticizing it.
That is a very weak excuse to try and stop migration. It's like, yeah, if Irish immigrants hadn't come to the UK, then some people wouldn't have been victims of sectarian violence. But that's not usually a good reason to stop an entire group of people from legally coming to the country.
I'm telling you the threats that multiculturalism imposes. You don't agree with them, but they are threats. They're threats to the people who live there currently, and they're essentially having to pander to a different group of people that is being imported en masse over a short period of time. They're exercising their contempt for that. They go, hey, we don't want this, and then they're being arrested. That's a threat to the UK if I've ever heard one. So I don't. You might not like it, but that is a threat.
Do you think like people coming out as gay is a threat to straight people in the UK? Because some people probably got arrested or falsely accused of hate speech against gays when there were more gays around in the country.
I mean, you could make the same argument, right? Like if you were to have a society that's like a heavily Christian nation, and you tried to import an entire group of like let's say gays, right? And then the Christians were opposing their
Why did he say
they
like
were
that?
criticizing that. They were like, we don't want this. And then you started arresting the Christians. That would be a threat to the Christian nation that you just imported all of those people to.
And is that a good reason to stop people from coming out for being gay?
I didn't say it was. I'm saying that if you're asking what is the threat is you have a culture that is being punished for the new culture being brought in.
And do you think that's a good reason? So if that's not a good reason to stop people from coming out from being gay, because it just means you would have to change the laws, do you think that reason you gave is a good reason to stop Muslim immigrants from coming to the UK?
Well, I think that it's a false equivalency, right, to compare Muslims to gay people, because there isn't a significant portion of gay people who are practicing a religious belief that is essentially incompatible with Western civilization. But you could make an argument, if you wanted to give it more of an equivalency, if you had a Christian nation that wanted to remain a Christian nation and they did not want to embrace multiculturalism, and then you tried to inject a bunch of gay people into it, I would say that Christian
If gays are so good, why did my wife leave me for a lesbian? Got him, libtard.
nation does have a right to hold on to their values and say, no, we don't want this. That does not mean I don't, that doesn't mean I hate gay people. That doesn't mean, anything about my opinions. I'm saying when you have a new culture brought in to an area that does not align with the values of the people in that area, that would be a threat to the area, which is what the debate prompt is.
If you're okay, so are you trying to make the argument though that we should stop Muslim immigration to the UK? Do you believe that?
Yes, but
what about immigration as a whole?
No, but that's because of Islam, not because of it's not because of like if you wanted to do a legal immigration process for Muslims, that would be fine, but
Also, I'm happy that you guys are actually listening to what I've been saying, okay? Like, I haven't even been paying attention that much to, like, the way that he's been using debate tactics. But notice how some of you guys have already pointed out that he is using Mod and Bailey, right? I actually haven't really been paying too much attention to that part, at the very least. And you guys have caught that before I did. So, yeah, I'm happy about that, okay? I like it when people listen to, like, things that I have told them before about like different debate tactics that people use and such. So yeah, no, good stuff.
The current system of just accepting them in mass is a threat. So I think that all nations should have an assimilation policy where if you go to a different country, if you want to immigrate there, you have to assimilate to the values of that land, right? Like, so America is a Christian nation.
My viewers are growing up. My viewers are growing up. So proud of
America's an English-speaking nation. I think that our immigration policy should be like, you need to, salute the flag. You don't need to be Christian, but you need to respect the Christian values of this nation, and you need to speak the language. That's an assimilation policy. So if you wanted to take in Muslims, on a case-by-case basis who are willing to adopt the values of the society that they're going to, sure, absolutely. But as far as just a general policy of allowing any and all Muslims in, no, because there's too many that practice Sharia law. There's too many that are radical. I mean, it's just
well, we don't
fact.
allow any and all Muslims into the country. Even under the recent conservative wave, there was still pretty strict policies on immigration. It's never been particularly easy to come here on a visa and start working. So in terms of,
I think it's up 44%. That's a pretty big number. Since 2014, I think was the year.
You know what's also big? Me and his mom. I messed up the mom joke here.
So you're talking about in 10 years ish. You're talking about a 44% increase in the Muslim population. If that's a lot, right? And that's enough to change the culture of the society they're moving to. So if you're talking about, is it a threat, then there's your answer. It is a threat. If you don't think there's anything wrong with it, well, that's not up to you. It is a threat to the nation, like the nation's values.
So do you think that
Wait, and what exactly, pray tell, is the nation's values? I thought like the only value that British people had were like fucking crumpets and tea. Like,
I'm guessing is it specifically Muslim immigration then that you're worried about? You care more about Muslim immigration than, say, Indians or Nigerians or Europeans?
Well, I would say that there's definitely an argument to be made
for in his mouth, sure.
Other nations that come in and do not contribute to society or assimilate, and Indians may fall into that. But I wouldn't make the argument against I wouldn't make the argument against a country, if that makes sense. Or
not the Indians.
I'm only making this argument against Islam because it is a radical practice, a radical belief system that doesn't align with Western ideology. So I'm not saying Arabs. I'm saying Islamists as opposed to Indians or Nigerians.
Islamists.
But I mean, like, if you were like,
not all Muslims are Islamists, right? You know that the Muslim world and Islamism is obviously quite at odds with each other, right?
Several times in this debate, I've told you that
so
if it's 10%, it's too many. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, so I'm guessing on those grounds, you probably think Brexit was a terrible idea then, right? Because our immigration obviously went away from Europe and towards Asia and Africa, right?
Yeah, I followed Brexit back when it was going on, and I don't really invest in politics out of other countries and really do deep dives into them. But from what I remember, there was a lot of support for Brexit. and I don't know the economic, social impact or multicultural impact of it. So
the multicultural impact was that net migration, which used to be majority European, they used to make up the majority of net migration, is now in the negative. And obviously, we're still a country that even conservatives in this country who ran on anti-immigration realized that we do actually need immigrants to support the other things that people also want in the country. So they just started bringing immigrants in from Asia and Africa. So yeah.
Why do you need immigrants?
Because we're a capitalist economy, for better or worse. We're a growing economy. We have an aging population. We need people to be younger, and we need people to work to fill gaps in places like the NHS.
Which is exactly why we need to import black people into South Korea, okay? Bro, there ain't nothing more sexy than Malaysian people, okay? It is time, okay? Long have we withstood the tides of change. Long have we withstood the dying, aging population, and long have the youth carried the burdens of the old and the poor. The time has come. The time has come to import brothers from the hood into the most South Korean woman-focused places, okay? On purpose. They will produce so many children. They will blot out the sun with the blackness.
And also just in general, because if an economy is going to grow, the population needs to grow. And our local domestic population does not grow fast enough.
So, I mean, this argument is being made from a lot of people on the left here, and it's not a solid. It has no solid footing. So I don't know the statistics over there, but I mean, I know it says 12% of your country is non they're immigrants, right? But in America, we don't need immigrants, right? Like we don't need them in the sense where they're completely necessary. But a lot of people make that argument. They're like, oh, we need
Prepare B-Day, Black Day. Open the boats. Open the harbor. I want to see swarms and swarms of black people going in everywhere. In Japan, in South Korea. I want to see them breeding ASAP.
need people to work. Nobody's gonna pick avocados. Yeah, they will. Like there are plenty of people here who will work. So I don't know if that applies to the UK.
Dark
if that is
tide.
argument, I would need to look at the need to look at the reasoning behind that, because from what I can tell is most nations can sustain themselves without immigration. I mean, look at what Poland is doing. Poland's allowing in like 2%, I think it is, and they're doing just fine. So they don't need immigration, and I think that they're culturally comparable to the UK. So the argument that it is necessary to bring in immigrants, I don't think it's ever really been on solid footing. You may want immigration for whatever reason, but I don't think the argument is that it is necessary.
Oh my god, wait. Don't white people no longer want brown and black people? Why deport them to El Salvador? Why not just deport them to Asian countries? Dude, the solution was in front of our faces the entire time. And we chose to ignore it. We chose to ignore it, okay? We just need to deport all the brown and black people to the East Asian countries, okay? Only by doing so can we save their nations.
Necessary.
It depends on what you mean by necessary, as in like people will probably still live. But I mean, if you want to talk about the standard of living in Poland versus the UK, forget about it. We have loads of Polish immigrants come to the UK, and we did before Brexit. Not many people wanted to go to Poland.
Sorry.
Unsurprisingly. I don't like you said that they're culturally similar. I mean, it's like Polish immigrants were one of the top targets for anti-immigration people in this country. We're quite different from America in that regard. We are quite broadly xenophobic when it comes to different groups. We're not really a melting pot. Poland, I think their population is about 8% immigrant. But in any case, like, is it just a coincidence to you that the most successful liberal democracies in the world have immigration?
Well, I'm not an anti-immigration person. What I'm saying is, if you don't have an assimilation process for immigration, then the risks
Yeah, of course, because you support immigration for white people.
outweigh
right?
the rewards, right? I mean, like the argument in America right now is over this like H-1B thing, where H-1B, in theory, it's a very good idea to bring the best of the best and the best minds in the world to contribute to the American workplace. But it's being abused, and a lot of these people are just like clerks that are being brought in here that we don't need those people. So yes, I think that when you have an immigration system that is beneficial, and I would say rare or small, it is a benefit. But mass migration is what we're talking about. Mass migration, I don't think ever helps the country that it is imposed in, especially like in today's modern era, because there's so many multiculturalism that it doesn't really jive. As far as Poland, it looks like, I'm just reading, this is just Grok, so I mean, but it says it's one of Europe's fastest growing GDP has roughly doubled since 2005, driven by foreign investments, exports. There are challenges like healthcare access and regional disparities, but it would be placed in the development index as very high. So, I mean, I don't know where you're getting your stats for Poland being like a bad place to
I mean,
live.
Poland's not. I'm not saying Poland's a bad place to live. I'm just saying that compared to the UK in terms of standards of living, we absolutely annihilate Poland. Like that's the reason that when we had the European Union, lots of Polish people came to the UK. Very few British people went to Poland.
Well, I mean, also because of like Russia.
That's not surprising. And in terms of standards of immigration, I'm guessing you sound like you'd be perfectly okay with the Labour Party's policies because you have to earn quite a lot to get a visa working in the UK now under his policies. The English standard, that's very.
Wait, he's reading Grok? Oh my god! Oh, did I miss that part? Did he say that he was reading Grok?
That's actually the part. So Poland's not. I'm not saying.
So since 2005 doesn't really. But mass migration is what we're talking about. Mass migration, I don't think ever helps the country that it is imposed in, especially like in today's modern era, because there's so many multiculturalism that it doesn't really jive. As far as Poland, it looks like I'm just reading. This is just Grok, so I mean, but.
Oh my god! No!
It says it's one of Europe's fastest growing GDP has roughly doubled since 2005, driven by foreign investments, exports. There are challenges like healthcare access and regional disparities, but it would be placed in the development index as very high. So, I mean, I don't know where you're getting your stats for Poland being like a bad place to live.
Poland's not. I'm not saying Poland's a bad place to live. I'm just saying that compared to the UK in terms of standards of living, we absolutely annihilate Poland. Like that's the reason that when we had the European Union, lots of Polish people came to the UK. Very few British people went to Poland. That's not surprising. And in terms of standards of immigration, I'm guessing you sound like you'd be perfectly okay with the Labour Party's policies because you have to earn quite a lot to get a visa working in the UK now under his policies. The English standard, that's actually been increased. You have to be able to speak a reasonable level of English to immigrate to the UK. I think the only exception that we make now, it used to be care workers and healthcare, and they're taking away from care workers as well. Everything else is higher income, like high skill. So dependence, that's come down as well. It's a lot harder for students to bring their wives and kids over to the country when they immigrate.
So you're saying that in the UK you have to speak English to be an immigrant?
So there used to be a particular.
Wait, what? Oh my god. Why did you not do any research?
Standard until just this year, and it's been increased. It used to be a fairly low standard. It's just gone up recently.
So just this year?
Yeah, but you still had to have there was a minimum. It's just been increased.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that my argument is if you embrace multiculturalism and put in a lot of people, I think 12 to 13% is a lot of people into a nation, especially over such a short period of time. When you increase the immigration by, or sorry, not this, I'm confusing statistics, but when you increase the immigration by, I think what's 44% over 10 years, you're going to create problems in that nation. I would say that that's mostly common sense as far as multiculturalism goes. But then my other argument was to look up the statistics of crime, and I think that the rape statistics are.
Why the fuck am I the top embed right now?
Are very problematic. I mean, 452% increase since 2002.
Okay, but you cannot demonstrate how that's attributable to the immigrant population. That's because we're much more politically correct now.
Holy fuck, 207 viewers on Kick. You guys, okay, Kick chatters, you guys better type something in the chat. Okay, so then we are able to reach. Kick partnership. Okay, we gotta reach Kick partnership. We need to put something in there. Okay, and we're able to have unique messages, and then we're able to qualify. Okay, thanks.
More woke about issues with sexual violence. It's much easier.
So you guys should donate. Okay, show your support. Okay, remember the whales. Okay, the Oilers in my community allow you guys to freeload off of my content. Okay, you guys get your content for free. Because Oilers give me the money, okay? Why not lessen their burden? Why not lessen their burden? Give me the money, freeloaders, okay? Lessen the burden of these whales, all right? Lessen the burden of these Oilers. Do what needs to be done. Okay? There ain't no way we have over 300 people watching, okay? But no donos. Holy! Okay.
Easier to speak up about it now than it was 20 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much made all my arguments, man. But I mean, I don't think I've changed your mind. I don't think you changed my mind. But
well, I'm just curious what you think. So you keep on appealing to things like values and ideology and incompatibility. But I'm just wondering, what are the overwhelming majority of Muslims in the UK? What are they doing that's incompatible with British values? Like, what's their day-to-day life like that makes it difficult for them to coexist with us in this country?
Well, you keep going back to the majority. I've already conceded that the majority of Muslims are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with being a Muslim.
You should embed DG chat to a stream. I'm pretty sure that's not allowed,
Muslim,
right?
right? But if you are looking at the statistics of how many Muslims which follow a religious doctrine of, some form of Sharia law,
Otherwise,
those
Zip would
Muslims
have done
cannot
it.
be integrated into society.
Just
And since
saying.
there's no real way to separate them, and knowing that you guys are already imposing Sharia councils in your
We're
your
not
country,
imposing them; they're voluntary. But okay.
well, there are Sharia councils in your country, right? I think that common sense would tell you a Sharia council means that they follow Sharia law, and Sharia law being normalized in a Western society is a threat to the society.
Yes, I understand that if you say the scary word and don't ask any questions or elaborate, then it sounds scary. Yeah, but when
Well,
you look
what's
at what
not
they
scary
actually
about
do,
Sharia
it's,
law?
I guess the Sharia councils in the UK don't seem that scary because they haven't done anything that you've been able to demonstrate that's a problem.
The demonstration is in the name. That's where.
Okay, well, then,
the law
okay, yes, they have all else equal, they have a scary name, but apart from that, it's fine. Yeah.
They have a scary.
Yeah, I'm scared of anyone named fucking Zach Bonfilio. That sounds like a fucking supervillain name. Get the fuck away from me. What the fuck? You sound sus as shit. Look at that motherfucker. My god, obese looking motherfucker. Jesus.
Name that it suggests that they practice a scary law. That's like if I was to say like there was a fucking terrorist council in the UK, you'd be like, that's scary. Yeah, it's a scary name.
Okay,
Is it
if the
filled with
terrorist,
terrorists?
if
I
the
don't know. Why
terrorist,
did they name it that?
if the terrorist council existed for like 20 years and not a single terrorist came out of it, would you not just be like, why is
Yeah, well, what if the terrorist council is just simply named the terrorist council, except what they're doing is that they're trying to track down terrorists? This is like a no argument, right? Like, this argument doesn't mean anything. Yeah, a bunch of shit. Yeah, the fucking CIA has a fucking scary name as well, right? The Central Intelligence Agency. Yeah, sounds pretty scary.
it called that? It's well, also
there's been
because
there's-
terrorist obviously is very specific. It's an act.
Do you know what the number? Do you know what
Whereas-
the number? Do you know what the number one terrorist group, like terrorist ideology, is in the world? 50 or 66,000 terrorist events recorded since in the past like 50 years. It's Islam, dude. They're fucking dominating on terrorism. So when you say I want to normalize a Sharia practice in my country by saying, well, it's just a name, it's just a Sharia council. I think most people. I think that most people are going, yeah, maybe not. So
Listen, maybe it's my
you might not
colonial-
look at it as a problem. I think most people.
Listen, maybe it's my colonial mindset coming in, but I think British people are intelligent enough to notice that just because it says Sharia, which is a very broad term, can be applying to anything from people doing suicide bombings and teaching a bunch of people that's okay, or it can also mean how you manage your marriage, and it can also mean how you engage in lending practices or how you do inheritance. And I think if it's the latter, it's probably less of an issue, probably not really that much of a problem.
I think a lot of people assume that Sharia is like a charcuterie board where you can just pick out the parts that you like. No, that would be the Muslim faith. Islam and Sharia, they have to follow it very strictly because it's the law. It's like if they're practicing Sharia, they're practicing all of Sharia. They're not practicing some of it.
Okay, well, I have lived in a Muslim country. I've been to Muslim countries. I've been to Muslim majority neighborhoods and spoken to many people.
Lived in a Sharia country?
Yes, I've lived in the Emirates. Yeah.
Well, the UAE is that's like Sharia light. So you do have a good argument.
In real life? What, is that like a fucking free trial? Like, is there like advertisements and you can pay for like the non-advertised version, or like what the fuck is Sharia light? Like, is that like just the first 3 expansions, but you don't get the rest of the expansions? You don't get Shadowbringers and Endwalker in it, or like, hello? What are we talking about?
I thought you followed all the laws if you were
Well,
Sharia.
they do. I mean, you can still be stoned to death. I mean, the rape statistics in the UAE they're so low because women won't report them because they fear being stoned to death. There's a lot of consolidation in like the major cities where it's like, oh, they're tourist centers, and then so they're really sort of loose and relaxed on some of their enforcement. But then if you go to the outskirts, it's pretty much the same thing as
Die
everywhere else.
Sharia, please. I'm trying to
like I
watch
said,
my weight.
Sharia law is not something to be taken lightly, and the places that practice it, religiously, like Iraq, that's a place that I'm sure that you wouldn't want to live.
So there's a lot of reasons.
I'm just saying, don't flirt with it.
There's a lot of reasons. Okay, as far as flirting with it goes, as I was about to finish my sentence, I'm still yet to meet a Muslim ever who has said that they practice Sharia law that practices all of it,
End it right there. He's never met a Muslim before. That's crazy.
including all of the 7th century shit. Maybe they're all just kind of like a little bit idiosyncratic, or maybe it's just that's how it works. But I mean, as far like so really like. In the UK, remember, Sharia courts are voluntary. But when you're saying if it gets to the point of them recognizing marriage councils or like recognizing them under the Marriage Act, that would be like a problem. So like if the state actually embraced these Sharia councils, that would be us like caving to Islam.
Yeah, I think I've been pretty clear on this. I think it's a slippery slope, and you just you don't
Caving in
start
your mom's
normalizing it.
pussy.
You call them something else if they're not Sharia. If they're really not Sharia, don't call them Sharia. If they are being called Sharia, they're probably Sharia. And if they're Sharia,
You literally call them Sharia light. If they're not Sharia, then don't actually call them Sharia, but you literally just called the UAE Sharia light. What?
then it's something that doesn't jive with Western values.
I'd probably rather let the people who practice the faith tell me how the faith works. But do you understand that Israel has state-funded Sharia courts, right?
In where? Tel Aviv?
In Israel proper.
In Israel proper? I mean, I don't know.
No, they do. The state funds the
See,
Sharia courts.
no, but you see, that's
Because they have-
Mossad's
they have,
plan.
uh,
Well,
Okay?
there's
Muslims who live in the
for that
country,
too.
right?
There's a
Why?
reason why they just got attacked, right? Because
They got attacked because of the Sharia courts in Israel?
You're kind of proving my fucking point,
Let's
right?
hold on.
Didn't we just watch a couple of years ago a group of Muslims go in and murder and rape like 1,200 people? Like it's like you're saying, oh, Israel has this. Oh, how'd that work out?
Dude,
Well, Israel wasn't funding Gaza's Sharia courts. That's a different point. That's a different territory. I'm talking about within their own country. I thought that didn't actually go against them. Didn't Hamas think that?
this guy's like apartment complex. Why is it called that when it's so simple? Like this guy's the kind of motherfucker who would say some shit like that. Apartment complex? Actually, it's quite simple.
The Palestinian Israelis would rise up and fight, and they didn't.
Oh my god!
Even though the state funds
From
the
the
Sharia
footage I
courts.
saw, there were plenty of Palestinians that were taking part in
The
October 7th.
Israeli Palestinians, the ones who live in Israel,
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly.
they
how
didn't
many...
join in, even though Hamas wanted them to. Some of them were murdered by Hamas, even though again, but Israel funds their Sharia courts.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that
it seems like it's okay to compartmentalize these things. It's not most. It's
No,
most
I'm
actually
agreeing
do
with you. I think that if Israel has Sharia court or Sharia courts, Sharia councils, whatever the fuck you want to call them, then they have gotten way too comfortable with Islam in their country. And look what happened. They live right across the street from a group of radical Islamists that want to kill them, and they just suffered one of the most horrific tragedies against the Jewish people, the most horrific tragedy since the Holocaust. So I mean, you're proving my point, not yours.
Well, you're telling me about a completely separate event that happened to the Sharia councils. Can you acknowledge that right now? October 7th had nothing to do with state-funded Sharia councils in Israel.
What I'm saying is,
It's a yes or no question.
yes, it probably did. It probably did. Had to do
Pisco,
with
is that
with the
you?
mindset of thinking, well, this is fine. It probably played a part. Yes, it probably definitely played a part. Yes.
How?
Because when you don't look at Islam as a threat, you get October 7th. When you don't look at Islam as a threat, you get 9/11. Why don't people understand this? A September 10th mentality is what you're proposing. I have a September 12th mentality where I've seen enough
Oh
evidence.
my
I've seen
God.
over 66,000 terrorist attacks. I've seen all of the the chance of death to America from certain Muslims, and you go, but it's not all of them. And
You've
I
seen
know it's
it?
not all
Like,
of them.
what do you
It's
mean by
enough of
that?
them. And then you go, oh well, they have Sharia courts in Israel too. And I go, exactly. I go, if maybe if they had a more strict policy on no Muslims, maybe they would be better off. But I mean, that's a situational thing. They're literally surrounded on all sides. So I'm pretty sure that that's probably what went into their reasoning. But Islam in general, these Muslim countries have spread, like, if you look at a map over the past, I think it's like 70, 80 years, they just take
Careful.
over everywhere they go. And you're talking about
They take
normalizing this behavior in your
over.
country, thinking that's not going to happen to you until it does. So keep up your September 10th mentality all you want, dude. I'm just not built that way.
So
God.
I think Israel and the UK both have September
They
12th
just
mentalities. We
take
did it with the revenge
over
strategy. We did it actually even in terms of the way that we
everything.
vet people.
Oh, God,
So, I'm
who
just wondering,
is
but again, you're still, I
coming?
need to hear what Muslims in the UK
It's
are
the
doing
horde.
that shows us that this is actually a threat.
Well, you're telling me to give you specific cases, right? I gave you the 1,000 people that have been arrested for
They're not doing
posting
that. That's a state that does that.
I know, but I'm giving you asked me for specifics. I give you, and then you keep telling me to give you more, right? You got the hate speech laws where people are arrested for anti-Islam rhetoric. You have the Sharia councils that you're propping up, but then you go, oh, but that's not proof.
I like
Okay,
this guy.
My proof is
He's
the Sharia
funny.
council. Then you tell me, okay, well, the rape statistics have gone up, 452% in the past 20 years, but you can't contribute that to it. You have this and you have that, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know, I can't draw this shit in crayon for you, right? It's like I'm asking you to use common sense. I can't. When you have a debate with somebody and you keep telling them to prove it, and then they give you enough circumstantial evidence where you could use critical thinking, and then you ignore that. That's your own cognitive dissonance. I can't explain it anymore to you. I mean, I can keep explaining it. I just can't understand it.
Okay. You can keep saying critical thinking, but
Done.
when I ask you what the Muslims
Destroy.
are doing that indicates that they're a threat to this country, the answer I get is they do marriage in a different way, in a voluntary way that's not illegal. They hate speech laws are imposed on people, sometimes unfairly, by people who are not even Muslim, but it's by people from this country that do that. And then what was the third one? Oh, that it's more people are reporting rapes, even though Muslims, for the most, I think most Muslim groups, apart from Pakistanis, are underrepresented in rapes. They committed less per capita than the average person. So yeah,
Okay,
I'm trying to
Ooh.
critical thinking when you're talking about it, but you're giving me 3 reasons and they're all shit.
I'm going to try to
Alleviation.
explain this to you the one final way. Okay, globally,
Oh no.
a median
He's reached his limit.
64% of Muslims across surveyed regions support making Sharia the official law of the land. That's 64% out of billions of Muslims. So, what is the threat of Sharia law? Right? That's the question. And if I'm saying not all Muslims, just 64%, that's your answer.
Well,
That's
a
it.
lot.
That's the
Okay,
answer.
if you could show me 10% of British Muslims who are trying to impose Sharia law on the UK, then I think there's a problem there. I don't like that, but they're not doing it.
No, but okay, so you can't take the 64% statistic and apply it because I can't show you the 10%.
Bro, dude, motherfucker. Dude, most people in the United States believe in a form of a divine, and like they believe in the divine, okay? They believe in a god, okay? Only 10% or like, I don't know, 20% of the United States are like non-religious, okay? All right, don't bring up like, oh yeah, 10% wants like fucking Sharia law in the UK, okay? Motherfucker. Motherfucker. Over 70% of the country is actually just fucking Down syndrome, fucking drooling out the side of the mouth, like chromosomally fucking aware, retarded. Like, bro, They probably believe in angels. Okay, they believe that angels are a thing.
Like right now.
Right.
Right? I'm asking you to take the 64% number and use common sense and critical thinking to apply it.
Yeah,
and
you can't just say things that have no like deductive reasoning and call it critical thinking, and then just that doesn't make it any more intelligent. You're talking about Muslim. It's a very simple question.
12 to 18%.
Damn, bro.
Central Asia, Southern Eastern Europe, right? 12 to 18% of Muslims surveyed support Sharia.
Right. If I was going to talk about the UK, why do you think immigrants leave the Muslim world to come to the UK, to a country where it's harder to practice orthodox like Islam or robust Sharia law? Why do they do that? Why do they choose here?
I have the statistic for you. In the UK, 6.5% Muslim population support for Sharia law is lower than global medians, right? But polls focus on an introduction of aspects of Sharia, and 70 to 80% of UK Muslims report regular prayer, fasting, aligning with Sharia observance, and 43% support of policy exchange, 23%.
Sharia has to be the name of his last ex. I don't know why he thinks that the name Sharia implicitly, inherently has some like horrible, evil, like harm about it, right? Like Sharia has to be, the only explanation for this is that Sharia has to be the name of his ex, dude. There's like literally no other explanation for this, okay?
Support for some integration into 78% support integration on most issues, broad framing 49%. Younger Muslims have less supported 33%. So you said give you 10%. I'm telling you it's actually much higher than 10%.
Can you read that? When you said Sharia, do you see how the examples it gave were praying and fasting?
And I'm telling yes, okay.
Because that's what it is to most Muslims.
Let me give you the summary. Let me give you the summary, and this is based on this has pollingreport.uk, has Al Jazeera, it has secularism.org, and The Guardian as references. Summary: 64% of global Muslims back Sharia institutionally. UK figures hover at 23 to 43%, often for limited.
Should ask if he'd be happy with the Christian theocracy. Well, I mean, he would, because he said that a Christian laws are more in line with British law. This is the argument that he made. He said that Christian law like has more of a fucking thing, yeah. More compatibility, yeah.
Civil roles. So your argument is we're just supposed to take them at their words for this. It's only for the civil stuff.
Unless they're actually trying to do it any different, then why wouldn't you? That seems to be what most.
If Sharia is so good, why did my wife run off with her? I'm sorry. Okay, that's not funny.
To them do.
Yeah, but enough of them don't. That's my argument.
No, where's the enough of them that aren't doing it?
23 to 43% have a limited. 23 to 43% of UK Muslims support some form of Sharia law, right?
Which could mean praying and fasting and doing your marriages differently.
It could also mean blowing you up. It could mean both things.
Are 10% of British Muslims blowing people up?
Bro.
Do you see what happens? What happens is every time we go to what they're doing, you cannot show me any substantial portion of them that's doing it.
No, I'm giving you global statistics and telling you to use your fucking head and apply it to your country.
Well, how do we not?
I'm giving you the amount of terrorist attacks under Sharia, under Islam. I'm giving you the case-by-case basis for heavily Sharia practicing, not the case-by-case basis. I'm giving you the
bad
Iraq
faith
versus the
Lonerbox,
UAE example.
dude.
Both places you can stone a woman to death,
Come on.
right? The really good one
man.
and the really bad one. And every time I bring that up, you go, yeah, but what if they're just doing it civilly? What if they're not? What if they actually like want to?
This is the critical thinking coming against like a paranoia. It's just like
no, but your argument of what if can be leveled right back against you. Of what if I'm telling you just don't do it at all, and your argument is no, let's flirt with it. Let's see, maybe they're the good ones, right? And I'm like, maybe they're not. And I just say don't normalize it. Don't start allowing the opening of Sharia councils. Don't start immigrating people who are part of.
Don't allow the opening of fucking book club. But excuse me, what are Christian study groups? What are fucking Catholic gatherings? What are mass hearings? What are super churches? Hello? Like, are we gonna pretend that only Muslims have these groups? Like only Muslims have these groups? No other religion has these groups? Literally every single time a Jewish family has a get-together, it's like a business meeting, okay? Like, should we call that fucking Sharia committee meeting thing? Or is it because, like, Jewish people are white and therefore that makes it okay? Like, Jesus.
Or at least connected to the religious ideology that is responsible for the most terrorist attacks in the world. Don't do any of that. Go on a case-by-case basis for immigration and say that you don't come here unless you assimilate. And by the way, if your assimilation is Sharia, get the fuck out. That's my argument.
So do you think we should, these Sharia councils, which are voluntary, we should ban them in the UK?
Yes.
Under which liberal Western value is that compatible with banning people from doing a voluntary marriage?
Let's go with the American example. The American government has an obligation and a duty. It's pretty much their number one duty to protect the people of this country, right? And if they see something as a threat, which a lot of Americans believe Sharia law and Islam is, they should ban it. So Greg Abbott, just this week, banned Sharia in Texas, where I live. And I'm very happy he did it. That's how you do it. You just go, no, right? And then you go, and fuck you if you don't like it.
He banned Sharia. What does that mean? He banned.
Well, it just sounds like you're not okay with a democracy then, right? You might as well just go and live somewhere else. I think Middle Eastern people don't typically live under a democracy all that much. Okay.
Sharia.
He banned all Sharia courts. There were Sharia courts getting popped up in Texas. There's a city in Dallas that wants to be a Sharia practicing independent city. He banned all of it.
In Dallas, they were trying to become a Sharia independent state with a new law. That's bullshit. But anyway, them doing their so they banned people from doing their own voluntary marriage system.
Sure, yeah. I'd have to look at the specifics of the order, but as far as I'm aware, it was the any Sharia council, any Sharia law independent like entity is illegal in Texas now.
Yeah, so personally, I'm okay with freedom of religion. I don't think there's any, if a Sharia council is doing criminal actions or anything like that, then you come down at them with the laws that we already have. That is insane to say that we're talking about what's compatible with liberal values. Freedom of religion is one of the most basic liberal values. I don't know why you would forego that. And by your own admission, it's just because they're called Sharia. You cannot demonstrate anything that they were doing. As far as these Sharia courts in Texas, I'm guessing they were also non-legally binding if they existed at all.
Yeah, well, that's why he made the law. He's like, they're not legal. So you can't have a separate entity. No, like the freedom of religion thing, people get this wrong all the time. Right? Freedom of religion, it's not its own amendment. It's not its own thing in the Constitution. It's just part of the First Amendment, which makes Congress shall make no law enacting the imposition of somebody based on their religion. Like you can't do that. But when it is superseded by the obligational duties of the government to protect the people from all threats. So you said Sharia is not a threat. It is. That's my whole argument. Is it is right? And when I give you all these examples, you just say that's not proof, and I can't keep circling this just going over it over and over and over again. If you do not think that Islam is a threat to Western civilization, then we will never get anywhere in this argument.
Again, if we're talking about identifying threats, then there's a reason we have counterterrorism in the United Kingdom and the United States, and they actually do, for the most part, a pretty good job at foiling attacks before they happen. Every couple of months, or every quarter, we get an intel report where they say, yeah, we stopped this attack here, or this attack there, or this thing here. I've never seen it ever. It has never pertained to Sharia councils, though. Just because Islam, and yeah, once upon a time, it was mostly from Irish people. Like, just because one group has issues that's going on with them right now doesn't mean they're always going to. Same thing would happen with the Irish people. Of the last 200 years, most of the sectarian violence in the UK was dominated by Catholics and Protestants, or Irish people and locals. We got over it. The same thing will happen with Muslims.
But Irish isn't a religious doctrine. Irish is a culture, country. It's a nation.
It was Catholics versus Protestants. Like, it was a religious conflict. We still have fucking football teams that are like relics of that old past. And it was insanely violent.
Yes, those were two groups fighting. They were both religious groups fighting with each other over different reasons. But the actual religious doctrine wasn't you have to. It was a disagreement based on ideology, misinterpreted by both groups. But Islam has a blueprint for taking over other nations. It's pretty much in their charter, their religious doctrine, to expand, to impose. If you find somebody who's not a non-believer, it's their duty to try to convert them. So you're going to get a lot more conversions the more.
That's like every religion. Every single religion it is your duty to convert. That's every religion. That's every one of them. That's every religion, mate.
Of them you let in, which is a threat to the culture of the nation that you're in. That's common sense.
Yeah, and if I see any substantial number of British Muslims doing that, that'll be a problem. But until then, it's all ifs and buts. So, okay.
Yeah, it's all ifs and buts until it's 9/11. That's what my whole argument is. But anyway, I pretty much said everything I needed to.
You didn't say anything though.
Any final,
my job here is done, but you didn't do anything.
I mean, it's fine. Again, I was expecting a little bit more, because I think even I could think of a few examples in the UK that might be a better example than just saying, well, the Sharia councils, they haven't done anything yet, but they have the word Sharia in them, and that could eventually mean other things, but who knows? Or there's hate speech laws, which again have been existing in this country long before we had a substantial number of Muslims. They were passed by white people, they were passed by locals, they're enforced by locals. They can be undone by locals if the locals want to get rid of them. And as for the rape stats, again, people have been saying this for the last 10 years. They've been trying to say that Muslims have some kind of propensity to rape more often than locals. There's never been any evidence of it in this country. The crime stats are very clear on that. So until I see actually any reason to be scared of 6.5% of the population being Muslim, then no.
With migration, is it reasonable to say that most people should or would or could assimilate to the country that they're migrating to and take on their guiding pieces and like their societal norms, cultural norms? Is that something we would accept as like most people do that?
It depends on which aspect you mean. So obviously, personally, I think although Keir Starmer, I think, is probably quite right-wing of what most people would expect him to be on immigration with what he's passed, but the language requirement, I think, is a no-brainer. It's a good thing that we've increased the standards for speaking English. Most people's...
Yo, hey, hello. Euler coming in, playing clutch.
A magnanimous dispensation.
Thor, thank you so much for the 10 gifted memberships. Holy shit. Thank you. Big and bountiful. Okay, most auspicious donation. Thank you so much. True, it's a deep state. Zorp is my personal Mossad handler, okay? He acts as the middle manager between me and Mossad. Have a good night. All right, have a good night, Zorp. Bye. Thanks for the donos. Hey, Chops, what's your take on this simulation? I would encourage it. Yeah, of course I encourage a simulation. Why not? What the fuck? Like, as much as I meme about, like, for example, I unironically believe that Eastern Asian countries should import more black people, right? They should have black people come in and immigrate so then they can boost the population, right? Unironically. But like that doesn't mean that they shouldn't respect their culture, right? That doesn't mean that they should go around breaking shit, right? Obviously, you know, the best case scenario is that, you know, they bring some of their own culture over and, you know, the culture intermix and it creates something awesome, right? Just go and assimilate, you know? Go and do your shit.
Like pretty much all of them speak English anyway. As far as obviously obeying the laws, I don't think we should make religious exemptions for things that are not compatible with our laws that already exist. That would be insane. As far as like cultural practices, that's when people say that they should adopt British values, is always this phrase that we get. I do.
Zorp, thank you again, okay? Chops, you're our champion. On what? On getting black people over to East Asia?
You get a bit hazy on what they mean by British values. I think maybe one of the problems that we've had with integration
My
is that
ex
when
was
people
a
talk about
Native
getting
American
immigrants to
ginger.
embrace British
Okay.
values, is people don't know what British values are. They don't know what British values they want to impose. I think for a citizenship test, you still have to swear loyalty to the monarch, right? I don't know why that's a given that like republicanism is also a very Western ideal. Like not wanting a monarchy at all is a Western liberal idea. The fact that so much of the British history they have to learn is about Tudors and kings and queens that even I don't know anything about, and I'm really into history. So I think we could probably start getting more to grips with what liberal values or what Western values we want immigrants to be subscribing to beyond the legal ones, but I never hear a good answer for that. So that's something that definitely needs to be worked on, I think, if we're going to do
that. Okay. If you guys would like, we could go ahead and close down. Lonerbox, I'll leave it to you for your closing statement, please.
Again, I'm happy to concede that there are some challenges that come with immigration, although having seen the way that countries that are of a similar economy or standard to the UK or that kind of standing in the world, it seems that whenever they reject immigration, their economy pays for it, whether it's with Japan and their quite horrible working day lifestyle, the relations with bosses and workers, and with the amount of debt that they've had to accrue to pay for the fact that they can't support their aging population, which means that any kind of financial shock that comes is going to bring them into a total collapse.
Oh, don't insult Japan, okay? All the fucking chuds are going to come in to defend Japan on behalf of their Asian waifus.
When it comes to the
Careful,
UK and the
they're
challenges that we
2D
have,
Asian waifus.
We've had challenges with immigration before. When Irish people came over to this country, there was quite a lot of violence. There was a lot of sectarian violence. There was a lot of religious violence.
comes the
there was actually a lot of racial
Asmongolders.
violence. Irish people were not considered to be the same race as us, and they came in anyway. And now barely anyone can tell the difference. This has also been the same with whether it's Indian migrants. It's even largely been the same with a lot of Muslim migrants. A lot of Muslim migrants, the more radical ones that you get, have been a recent thing, largely from second or third generation immigrants who undergo a kind of like identity crisis, and especially with a lot more of the middle class ones, because they don't really identify, believe it or not, they practice Sharia, but they don't identify with the complete, like, by the letter.
Is Sarah on the right? What's her history? She's like a ex-military veteran person who is now Andrew Wilson orbiter. And she is just essentially the WIC TV of the right. Okay. Yeah, Sarah is right-wing WIC TV. Yes, she is conservative, I think. Yes.
Following every single step of it that their parents did, but then they also don't really identify with local culture because they feel excluded from it. Because again, the United Kingdom, we've had xenophobia all the way throughout our history of immigration. It's always been a problem. It's always meant that this relation between locals and immigrants has always been quite dicey, and that is something we need to work on. Because I do believe in having common liberal values to a degree. Obviously, people should be able to think and say what they want, but the problem is that I don't think any government has ever given a good answer as to what those values should be and what we should be looking out for, besides the obvious things like, does this person have terrorist proclivities or whatever else? Which the vetting standards for that have gone up all the way since 9/11. Like, they only ever get more strict. We just recently introduced a new round of vetting standards for asylum seekers to make it even more interrogatory and a bit more prudent. So I don't think these are challenges that are necessarily going to threaten civilization or be too incompatible with Western civilization. It seems that the overwhelming majority of British Muslims, regardless of what some of them might believe or what maybe they're saying something about civil Sharia when they actually mean something much more nefarious, most of them work their jobs.
She looks greasy? No. Why does everybody say that people look greasy? Just, chances are it's like fucking lighting issues. Hello, Miss Green Victim. Hello, Dev.
the overwhelming majority of them work their jobs and they have their families and they listen to Western music and everything like that. So I've just never really seen it bearing out of it being a very significant threat, despite occasionally, like any other immigrant groups.
There is no group of people in the world more of a fan of Western culture than East Asian people, okay? You have no idea, all right? When it comes to music, when it comes to street clothing and shit like that, okay? They want everything black related except for black people themselves, okay? Change that. If you want to adopt black fashion, black culture, shit like that, it's time to bring in the black people, okay? You need to bring in the people who have made all of that shit, okay? All the brown people who have made flamenco, okay? Flamenco, all right? Since Japan is obsessed with that and obsessed with like Lolita and Victorian dresses and shit, okay? Go.
Some of them commit murders,
Ew.
some of them commit horrible crimes, and the law deals with it. And the law hopefully deals with it usually before it happens through counterterrorism and everything else, the same way that we dealt with crimes that came from Irish immigrants. We did not just say that because there's a few bad apples here, we should kick out the whole group. That didn't make any sense back then, doesn't make any sense now. British culture is better for it. The country is better for it. We have one of the biggest economies in the world, and that was always been to do with the fact that we go around the world and we take some things and we export some things, and sometimes we did things quite brutally with the British Empire, but then we also had people in Asia and a lot of Muslims actually fighting on our side in World War II against the Nazis, and that's actually a lot of how we managed to handle them in the Caucasus and South Africa was because of Muslims and Indians and other groups fighting alongside us. I think having 6.5%, it was, I remember people were losing their shit when there were 4% of Muslims in the UK, and that was in 2010. Now it's 6.5. I mean, for the biggest, baddest empire in the world, I think we can handle a few Muslims in the country. It's not going to be a big problem. As far as learning about critical thinking, I guess, I don't know, I think I need something more convincing than Sharia councils have the word Sharia in them, or hate speech laws imposed by locals should be blamed on immigrants.
Perfect. Thank you, Lonerbox. Zach, to you, please.
Yeah, it's pretty easy closing. He admitted that he says it's a threat, right? He's like, oh, it's a threat, but the argument is it's not that big of a threat. And then he says, okay, well, unless it becomes a threat, like if you don't show me the terrorist attack that happened this weekend, then there's no threat. It's like I said, September 10th mentality. I made good arguments as to why it is a threat, right? And I'm not trying to hammer him down on the debate prompt, because at the beginning of this we said we are going to try to get a little bit more nuance. I don't think that Lonerbox understands what I mean by the multiculturalism argument being bad because of the type of culture you're bringing in. Like you said, 6.5% of Muslims out of 12% of non-immigrants, half of your non-immigrants are Muslim. And you said that was a small number. That's, I think that's millions of people, I think, or hundreds of thousands of people. That's a big number. And again, what I said was not every Muslim practices Sharia, but enough of them, 64%, view some form of Sharia as acceptable. And when you start flirting with that, let's say out of that 64%, only 10% is hardcore Sharia practicing. You're essentially saying, okay, we're going to allow 10% of the 64 of the 6.5%. And when you boil that down, that means that you're essentially allowing in.
Is a Norman to Grok mid debate? Hell no. What? If now, like, it's worse than ever, because it's like, why the fuck would you, like, Grok's so fucking compromised, like
thousands of people that are not aligned with your values, and thinking that that's not a problem. It's just naive. And you even said that they just increased in the UK their standards for immigration. Why all of a sudden recently have they started saying, you know what, we got to do something about immigration, because clearly their government thinks it's a problem. You can hyperfixate on this whole Sharia court thing. My argument was not really about the Sharia courts or the hate speech against Muslims specifically. That was just to give you more examples of the overarching problem, which is multiculturalism. When you allow multiculturalism, and apparently I didn't define it well enough, it's a culture that doesn't clash, that does not vibe with the culture that is currently in place. And the imposition of Sharia councils is the evidence of that, where it's you have a different, these people need a different structure in order to live by their values. They need a building that they can go in and settle their differences, because the ones that are in the country that they occupy don't. So whether or not you think that that's not a problem because it's like just for civil matters, I think the
Nick Willie, what the fuck, bro? Jesus, chill, go in somewhere else.
Just the evidence that they have them is enough where you should take it seriously. And again, to go back to it, the threat may be small, it may be big, but you don't know until it's like 2 days after the October 7th attacks, and you go, how the hell did this happen? Right? And 2 days after the September 11th attacks, and you go, how the hell did this happen? And I think the common theme between both of those, and probably all 66,000 terrorist attacks from Islam over the past 50 years, was they didn't take it seriously enough, and I don't think he is taking it seriously. So, do that at your own peril. I think that we're going to keep on doing shit like Greg Abbott saying, I can no Sharia in Texas, and I'll stay over here in America.
Perfect. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Usually, there's a lot of shit talkers in the chat, which is fine and well, but none of them wanted to put their money where their mouth is. So no big questions for you coming. No big questions coming in for the two of you. However, Jason did send the big 200 on the coffee app just for me to go and enjoy a massage after this debate. I don't get
What the fuck, bro? Where's my $200 for putting up with this shit?
to enjoy it today, but I will enjoy it at some other time. However, I can let the both of you go and continue on. I thank you both for joining this afternoon. We cannot obviously do open
Instead
panel
of
just because
coffee,
of the
coffee is
timing and so on and so
955.
forth,
Kick is
but we'll try to maybe
955.
work out another one another day with these afternoon debates. Any last final thoughts from the both of you?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, fine.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to kick you out and say goodbye to my people. Have a wonderful afternoon.
All right, see you later.
Take care. Bye.
All right, you little shits.
What did she call me? Oh my god.
Jesus.
Now I get my camera back. Ugh. Holy fuck, man.
Not greasy.
Well, damn, I guess I did say that there were some challenges with immigration, eh? Fuck. What should I...
No one's gonna go to kick if the YouTube super chat is right there. Au contraire, Radiant. There are 155 viewers on Kick. Okay, I have no idea where they're coming from, but hello.
What should I do with my donos, eh? With my big 200s? Should I get my fucking... a good honest... No, I don't want... No, not immigrant food. Not curry. I want a good honest British kebab. That's what I want. A good bread and butter.
Yeah.
Mixed shawarma wrap. Hell yeah. Tea and biscuits. Fuck me, man. Dude. Get a therapist after that. I don't know, man. Mad.
I think we made lots of progress today.
What do we do, man? What the...
Kick people straight up can't donate money unless they buy the stupid bits. What? That's not true. You can donate the subs. Dummy.
I need to do more of those debates, though. That was good. I need to do more British migration debates. One day, you guys keep thinking it'd be funny, it'd be better if we got a British person to talk about this stuff. You do not understand. The average British anti-immigration person is
I like when
no more
aliens go
informed than that guy
boom.
was. They're the same. They're exactly the same. It's the same arguments. It's the same disinformation, or it's the same... Normally, actually, he was a bit more humble. Like, he wasn't going to commit to them being more... having a higher crime propensity than the locals and all that shit. God. I want to see you challenge Sargon. I mean, I have.
This debate felt very normal. Like, obviously, because right wingers are dumb as fuck. Okay, this is kind of what I expect. But yeah, you know what? This debate was fucking normal pilled. Set up Kickbot. I should. Fuck. I should set up Kickbot. Actually. I'll do it in a bit, okay? First, I gotta set this Viper on fire. Oh, the Viper's on fire. Oh, now he's dead. Alright, well. Viper was on fire, because the Viper is now dead. Okay, I wasn't gonna make it 19%, okay? Fuck! Okay, it's fine. Hey, at least the stun lancer is burning. Okay, stun lancers are pretty dangerous. Where's that frame? What frame? Him? You're on fire, bitch! What are you gonna do when you're on fire? Oh, holy! Oh, there goes my loot. XCOM is all about risk management, okay? Because there's always going to be a chance where things go wrong. But it's also about managing your risks, okay? Getting the most dividends, alright? Bro, Puddles is like defending me at all hours of the day against fucking J-Style Core, dude. It's so funny. Well, it's like wholesome 100, okay?